From carnage in America to crisis in the White House, Donald Trump's presidency, well, it's been a nonstop exercise in putting out fires. In just a few hours, he'll address Congress for the first time. Will his words prevent hope from going up in smoke? I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
Well, I am not a hypocrite, and I haven't been treated properly, and that's okay, which is fine. You know, let everybody treat
Some of the
me.
left say you just can't take it.
Maybe we'll have a small, oh no, do they say that? No. Well, I've taken it.
Can you give me an example of a time when someone was critical of you and you thought to yourself, I deserve that hit, I deserve that column,
No,
I deserve
probably I could never do that. I think I get an A in terms of what I've actually done, but in terms of messaging, I'd give myself a C or a C+.
Oh, welcome to the program, everyone. We begin the day with what could be one of the biggest sales pitches that Donald Trump has ever made. Tonight, he'll address a joint session of Congress and is expected to offer praise to his new administration. That is what he will say is turning the country around. Now, that's the transaction that Trump would like the country and the world to buy into. But the events since his inauguration, well, they may dare to get in the way. President Trump has faced one major crisis after another since taking office. The first was his executive order banning travel to the U.S. from 7 mostly Muslim countries. It quickly became a test of the checks and balances when a circuit court stopped the order. Trump has blamed it on bad judges. At the same time, Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, was forced to resign amid reports that he'd lied about his conversation with Russian diplomats. Now, Trump blamed the media for creating something out of nothing. Well, Flynn's departure prompted Congress to widen its probe into Russian meddling in the U.S. election. Now, Trump's ties to Vladimir Putin and his government are being investigated as well. The president calls this simply fake news. And then there are those non-stop leaks. Trump, the candidate, praised leaks that hurt Hillary Clinton. He now calls people who leak un-American, and he blames his own intelligence agencies such as the CIA. So who is prompting them to leak? Well, Trump says it is the man who used to live in the White House before him. Take a listen.
No, I think that President Obama is behind it because his people are certainly behind it. And some of the leaks possibly come from that group. You know, some of the leaks, which are really very serious leaks because they're very bad in terms of national security. But I also understand that's politics. And in terms of him being behind things, that's politics. And it will probably continue.
Well, will Trump be able to change course with his speech tonight? I'm joined here at the big table by Tyson Barker. He's a former senior advisor at the U.S. State Department, now with the Aspen Institute here in Berlin. Tyson, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
It's a dark America, a freeloading world that Trump has shown us so far. Is he going to change his tune tonight?
Well, you said that it's going to be a sales pitch, and if Donald Trump is anything, he's a salesman.
Right.
I mean, this is kind of what he does. The question is, does he make his pitch to the American people? Does he make it to the Republican Party? Or does he make it to his narrow Trump supporters? And that's really the question. The two big issues on the agenda for the Republicans, who he will be addressing essentially in Congress, are tax reform and repeal and replace, or reform of Obamacare. What he's basically indicated thus far is he would prefer to have a standoff approach to that and let Congress take the lead. The problem is the president is really a galvanizer generally. As an institution, the presidency, the White House has a lot of power. So if he doesn't give those guiding lights, it's going to be hard for them to know which way to go.
Yeah, speaking of guiding lights, there have been so many contradictory messages coming from the White House, especially when it comes to foreign policy, NATO, the EU, and even Russia. What are the messages that America's allies are going to be listening for tonight? I mean, do you think he will be speaking to Europe, for example?
So I guess the big buzz term of the day should be put your money where your mouth is. What he's going to basically be doing is outlining a massive defense spending increase of $54 billion, and that will come with a lot of cuts from other discretionary spending. 1/5 of that will come from the State Department's budget. So state and foreign aid are expected to take a big hit in the budget that's going to be presented in March. So what we will see is a kind of militarization of U.S. foreign policy, U.S. engagement in the world, and at the same time, this kind of isolationism, America first stance that he's taken.
Yeah, I mean, what does that do to the projection of America's influence and power in the world when the State Department's budget is going to be cut? I mean, because that's a dramatic cut.
Well, this is going to be the big dialogue that's going to be taking place in the next month. So once he's made this big speech, he's going to have to get into the details, or his administration will, and they're going to have to submit something. Then the debate begins. And actually, the State Department and foreign aid have a lot of support, not only within Congress, but also within the Defense Department. So what we have to see is, what do the generals say, his generals, as he likes to say, about the fact that there's going to be such an imbalance favoring essentially militarization of foreign policy. I think if you listen to McAllister, what he said a couple of years ago is, when you cut the State Department's budget, when you cut diplomacy, I need more ammo. And so that's going to be the big debate that's going to be taking place in the coming weeks.
You know, what you're saying here is we just don't know what the president wants to do. I mean, we don't know how he plans to replace Obamacare, for example. There is no plan on the table. We don't know how he wants to pay for this $1 trillion infrastructure improvement plan. So where's the clarity?
So this is a president that has tended to, his management style has been defined by a degree of chaos and uncertainty, and he thrives in that kind of environment. So I don't think that we should look for a definitive amount of certainty from this speech. What we should look for is the kind of framing conditions for which a debate can take place in the coming months.
I want you to take a listen to a little clip here about his first budget and how he describes it, especially for the increase in defense spending.
This budget will be a public safety and national security budget, very much based on those two, with plenty of other things, but very strong. And it will include a historic increase in defense spending to rebuild the depleted military of the United States of America at a time we most need it.
Okay, he got applause there. I think he was speaking to governors there. But what about Congress? I mean, the Democrats have to go along with this plan to increase the spending. Are they going to do that because they're going to be asked at the same time to cut the State Department, the EPA?
So what you've hit on is something that's known in Washington speak as the sequester, which basically means that there's been a cap on increases in defense spending and entitlement spending and discretionary spending based on a budget deal from 2011. It requires 60 senators to overturn that sequester vote. The truth is that increases in defense spending have a broad bipartisan support. Frankly, defense spending does two things. One, of course, it increases the ability of the U.S. to project power in the world, but it frankly is also a stimulus at home.
Right.
So a lot of those governors have massive defense contractors that operate in their states, and frankly, defense creates a lot of jobs in the United States.
The whole question about Russia, I have to ask you that. I mean, that question is still unanswered, and it is still open. And are we going to get resolution to that?
This is not, I think that the Trump administration would have preferred this to die within a couple of news cycles. This is a zombie story. It will not die. So we still have several different lines of investigation taking place. There are new calls also by Republicans like Darrell Issa for an independent investigator to kind of take this on. There's new momentum to deal with this in certain committees within Congress. And of course, right now, the Justice Department would have theoretically the lead. The question is, should the Attorney General recuse himself because he was so involved in the campaign itself?
Yeah, that's a big question, and we're waiting for some resolution on that one as well. Tyson Barker with the Aspen Institute. Tyson, we appreciate you being on the show again.
Thank you.
Thank you.